Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nugentino Cinema. And today I'm joined by Kylie. Thank you for being here again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
You too. And today we're going to be reviewing Love, Liza, which is directed by Todd Luizzo, I think is his name, starring Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I think written by Gordy Hoffman, who's Philip Seymour Hoffman's brother. But yeah, so I think I recommended this movie to you like a year or so ago. And did you just want to give some thoughts of it right off the bat?
Yeah. I was trying to remember where, did I first watch it with you or did you recommend it to me? And I think you did recommend it to me and I watched it on my own. I really enjoy it just because it is a really interesting portrayal of grief. Just because it's a regular guy with a regular job. He loses his wife. That's something that a lot of people go through. And the characters are, in a lot of ways, very relatable and somebody that I could see myself knowing, versus sometimes in dramas, it's more like the characters aren't so relatable and it's hard to see yourself in that situation in any capacity. And I found myself coming back to it pretty frequently. I think I've watched it maybe 4 or 5 times in the last year and a half, 2 years. So it's up there in some of my favorite movies of this genre. And I also like that it's a low budget film. And that just contributes to kind of like the everydayness of it and like seeing yourself within it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a movie I really love too, and I think I saw it for the first time like 5 years ago. And I watched it like a week or so ago, but I watched it again yesterday, leading up to this review. But so I've seen it twice in a week, but I think I've seen it 7 times in total in 5 years. But yeah, it's kind of like a weird, even though it's like super depressing. I kind of go back to it almost as like there's something weirdly comforting about it. I don't know how to explain it, to me at least. There's even though there's such sadness throughout it, there's like weird moments of humor, and I think that Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance. Philip Seymour Hoffman. There's so many classic Philip Seymour Hoffman isms throughout the whole thing, and he's really kind of. Well, he's not like at 11, but he's like the moment where he's in the water is really funny, and even though I think that it's also touching in a weird way, because like there's a piece of music there that plays. I don't know the name of it, but it's like really beautiful, I think. And I don't know who did the music, but I think it was like one songwriter, and I haven't been able to find any of his music online. So I don't know if he just did it for this movie, but I thought it was really good.
Yeah, and to kind of go with what you were saying, it is comforting in a weird way, and I think it's because it shows all of these different people grieving in different ways, and everybody has their own way of processing something like that. But Kathy Bates is very attentive and she wants to be involved with what's going on with him, but she's also grieving her daughter. And Philip Seymour Hoffman's character Wilson just kind of wants to be left alone and not be so involved with Kathy Bates. And then when they find out about the letter that she leaves Wilson, he kind of wants to not even look at it, and she really wants him to read it. And so, and then there's the scene with her when he goes to eat dinner with, I guess it's her sister and brother-in-law.
I forget. Maybe.
But her sister, like, can't even look at Philip Seymour Hoffman. She's just, like, crying the whole dinner. So
I remember that scene, but I forget what the relation to them was. I just remember the guy coming up to him in the basketball court, inviting him to dinner, and then they just ends terribly. But yeah, that was an interesting moment.
But there are
was
funny
interesting
parts to it
Go
too.
ahead.
Oh, there are funny parts to it too. Like, it's sad and funny at the same time. But there's this part near the beginning that always gets me, where his coworker, when he first goes back to work, is telling this funny story at the table, and he starts laughing kind of forcibly because everyone else
that one's really good.
around him is laughing.
Yeah.
And he just, like, can't stop, and slowly, like, everyone one by one gets up from the table and leaves him.
Mm-hmm.
And that always makes me sad, but it's also like you could see yourself in his position where you just can't stop.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see somebody who just, I don't know, is in such like a shaken up mental state that they just, they still feel like they have to go to work. They still have these things, these obligations they have to do, but then they just, end up reacting inappropriately and kind of freaking out at various moments. Not that he's freaking out, but just like he's unstable. So
Right.
he goes on a vacation, and I thought that was interesting that happened so early in the movie that he goes on this vacation to I don't know where he was, like Florida or something, and then it just like it wraps up so quickly, like his whole vacation experience. He just goes and he comes back, and then once he comes back is when he gets his first taste for gas when he walks by a taxi cab.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there's something I noticed about there's kind of a correlation between him going on vacation and then when he goes on vacation again and ends up at the like plane and boat races. Is in his vacation we see him on the beach. He like runs out into the water and he's like frolicking and having a great time, and you're thinking, oh, like he's having this kind of healing moment, and then he gets back from vacation and it's all kind of downhill from there. And then and like it's socially acceptable to go like frolic at the beach when you're on vacation, but not as socially acceptable to get in the water at an RC boat race.
Yeah.
But it also seems like when he gets in the water there, he's still having fun and it's kind of like a healing moment, but then they have to like get him out. And I thought those were two instances of kind of showing like the decline throughout the movie.
Yeah. And him just looking for like just moments of solace. Like I guess the water is like his solace in a way, and that's something he thinks that can take his mind off things. But whenever he's at the boat race, he's like high on gas and all messed up and is just not thinking straight and just goes into the water, just searching for that, little moment, even though it's in a completely inappropriate setting. But yeah, that's interesting.
And as soon as he gets out of the water at the boat race, even if he got some relief from that, immediately his friend is like, no, like don't be mad at him. His wife just killed herself.
Yeah.
And then the girls at the boat race want to like know more about it. So there's never any relief from it, no matter how far away from home he goes.
Well, yeah, and I think the vacation thing was interesting because I think it's just like, I think maybe the reason it's so quick and it happens so fleetingly is like it shows that even if you go on a vacation to try to make things better, like, you know, it may make things better temporarily, but once you're back and you're right back into your situation. So,
right. Yeah. It's all
Mhm.
temporary.
He's looking for an escape, which I think is like kind of an obvious phrase to use, but like he's looking for an escape in that. He's looking for an escape when he tries to, drive off and go to these boat races or radio control. and the plane stuff. But then obviously the biggest thing is he's looking for an escape when he discovers the gas, and he starts to lean on that. I think the gas thing is interesting because I don't know how many people, like I've never met anybody who huffs gas, but I think it's an
Yeah.
interesting, yeah. But I think it's an interesting kind of like extreme example of just like leaning on addiction for like emotional support because I know Philip Seymour Hoffman. Well, obviously he passed away in like 2014 from a heroin overdose, and he'd struggled with that stuff like way earlier on, like in his early 20s. And I think this movie, because it was written by his brother, I think his brother might have had similar issues. I think it was kind of written about that stuff, and or at least that was like a kernel of what was in there. And I feel like that the gas stuff represents that in a way. Like I feel like because I feel like maybe even though way more people use heroin, it's still something people can't understand because it's like sounds extreme and scary. And I feel like it's kind of making a comparison there. Um, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and I do think it's an interesting choice to have him choose gas versus alcohol or something else,
Yeah.
um because I also feel like it's not quite as common,
Yeah.
um but I was really interested to learn that so his brother wrote the film, and he wasn't really planning for Philip Seymour Hoffman to star in it. Like it
Okay.
wasn't written that way initially, but they happened to be home, I think visiting their parents at the same time or something. And his brother, um, what's his brother's name?
I think Gordy Hoffman.
Freddie Hoffman. Okay. He was like, "Hey, I finished this thing," and was just really proud that he had finished something. And Philip read it and immediately was like, "Okay, well, I'll do it," without him asking. And it just all kind of came together really perfectly. And I honestly can't see anyone else being the lead in
Yeah.
this
Neither can
movie.
I.
Like, it's very specific to the kinds of characters that he plays. Um, it's not the same character as in The Master or anything like that, but they all have a lot of them are in the same vein, I feel
Yeah,
like.
for sure. I mean, if it was anybody else, like it would be a completely different tone and feeling. I think. Yeah, there's something he brings to it with his humor and his like just the uniqueness of his the way he does a performance. But yeah, a lot of the supporting characters were really good too. I think Kathy Bates was obviously great. Like she has some really good tear jerking scenes, and Jack Keeler I thought was good. He's the guy that is Philip Seymour Hoffman's friend that is flying planes with him, and then he barges in to the house at the end, and then Philip Seymour Hoffman just goes crazy on him, which is a great scene.
Mhm.
Yeah, but yeah, that was an odd relationship. Like I thought it was interesting how at the beginning Philip Seymour Hoffman, his boss, um, asked him if it's better maybe for him to go on this vacation, and then like she's like throughout the movie like being very caring and is like worried about like his well-being, and then how that connects to her recommending to the brother because I think that guy's her brother, because he says he's like has a plane, and then that connects him, and then they go on this whole plane thing. But yeah, I liked all that stuff.
Yeah, I love the scene when she comes to his house at night one night, and he comes to the door after he's been like huffing gas, and she's like, "Does it smell like gas to you?" And he's like, "Oh, I've been crying," and like
Yeah.
I don't know. There's definitely like it's a dark comedy, and there's a lot of like little pockets of funny, like rolled into sad in the same scene.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I think even on the DVD cover it says like a tragic comedy. So
Oh,
yeah,
really?
that's what they were going for. But yeah, I think the girl who play or the lady who plays like his boss, her name's Sarah Koskoff, and I thought she was good in it. But she's married to the director now, I think, and
Oh, really?
I think um, he's gone on to like write some interesting things. Like the director Todd Luizzo, I think he did Macbeth, the Michael Fassbender version, and but they haven't done too much. But the stuff they have done is interesting. But yeah, this movie is fantastic, I think.
Hmm.
Mm. Um, Trying to think. Just looking at my notes here. Have you ever heard of a movie called Paris, Texas?
Yes. And I've
This
seen it once, I think.
okay, because the ending of this reminds me of like where that movie begins. Because I just rewatched Paris, Texas recently, and just like so at the end, he finally reads the suicide note, and he tries to burn it, but because his house is covered in gas, he ends up burning his entire house down, and then just like walks off into the streets, and then the last shot is him like walking into the distance, um, in like a highway, like in his underwear, and it kind of reminded me like you start in Paris, Texas, with Harry Dean Stanton like walking through the desert, and he's literally been walking. He's been missing for 4 years, and spoilers for Paris, Texas, for anybody who hasn't seen it. But at the end, it's revealed that he had this major sort of incident with his ex-wife, and it resulted in the house burning down. And when that happened, he just started walking and never came back, and was walking for 4 years straight. So that was just like a weird connection I thought of two movies I had seen pretty close together.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that again soon. I haven't seen it in a while, and I had only seen it the one time, but yeah, I didn't make that connection initially, but I do remember that now because he's like reappearing at the beginning of the movie, and I remember him like walking out of the desert.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's really good. That movie has got a great vibe to it. It's not like as funny as this movie or anything, but it's got a really good like emotional vibe. It's also not like it's it's emotional in kind of like an understated way. It's not like extreme, even though some of the things that are revealed are extreme, but the things that you're seeing on the screen aren't too extreme. But yeah, I think that's a really good movie. Yeah, there's a whole list of movies that like are melancholy or have these kind of like sad vibes, but like I still find comforting in a weird way. Like this, Love Liza, Paris, Texas. I think Magnolia's in there. I mean, I've seen that movie a lot, so it's hard to go back to because I've just seen it so much. But yeah, there's Lars and the Real Girl.
Yeah, Lars and the Real Girl is one of mine
Yeah,
too. Blue
mhm.
Valentine's one.
Yeah, Blue Valentine's really good. Yeah,
Um,
I have a whole list of stuff on Letterboxd that's like 80 movies long of kind of movies that I think are like sort of in that vein.
I also really liked oh, what is it called? I Know This Much Is True. It's like the
Oh yeah.
limited series.
Mhm.
Um, and I thought that was kind of going to be one of these, but I tried to revisit it recently and it was just too sad. I couldn't finish
Well,
it
that was a
again.
lot more heavy. Like,
Yeah,
there's not much humor to take solace in there.
no,
It's
that
pretty,
one's just really sad all the way through.
yeah. But Derek Cianfrance's stuff, he directed that, and he did Blue Valentine. Pretty much everything he's done is kind of like that. The Light Between Oceans, The Place Beyond the Pines to some extent. Yeah, but he's a great director, I think. But
Mhm. Yeah, I like a
yeah,
lot of his stuff.
and like a lot of these movies are some of my favorite movies. It's not to say I only like these kind of movies. I definitely like other stuff, but I just think it's an interesting. I wouldn't call it a subgenre, but an interesting kind of movie.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So, I guess what do you think about the way that Kathy Bates's character kind of handles everything in the movie? Because we've talked about how Wilson is handling the death of his wife and the things that he's done, but I would say Kathy Bates is kind of like the opposite.
Yeah, I think it just shows different personality types. Like not everybody's gonna react the same to it. But like, yeah, I found it kind of relatable, just like in dealing with depression and stuff, and talking to people that like want to help, but like you're not really receptive to their help, or like don't feel like it's the right thing, and then you just sort of start closing off, and they start getting really frustrated, and it just goes down like a weird path, and like that definitely, like she starts getting really upset, and there's like a confrontation towards the end, where he's calling her over and over, trying to get her to, because the house was robbed, and then she's like hanging up on him because he's like screaming at her, and then one of the moments that makes me tear up is when like he finally gets her to talk to him. They're talking through the window, and he's like, "I have nothing," and then she's like, "You had everything." I thought it was a great moment, but yeah, she's the person who committed suicide's mother, so she's obviously going through her own thing, and it's like it's revealed that I guess she robbed the house and had the letter, but yeah, I think it just shows the clashing of two different sort of personality types. One that just shuts down completely in Philip Seymour Hoffman, and one that tries to remain proactive even though they're like things are horrible for them inside.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that they had her be the one who robbed the house, because I remember the first time that I saw this thinking, who comes in and literally clears out everything. There was like nothing in the house, and
I still find it odd that she did that, but she could just taken the
yeah,
letter.
no, it's like it shows her emotional state as well, because she tells him like, you had everything, and I think that she's looking for some way to hold on to her daughter, and even if it's through having a relationship with Wilson, and he's not giving that to her. So she's like, okay, well, he's gone, then I'm going to take everything, because she sees him as, I think, not appreciating it because he can't sleep in the bed. She finds him sleeping, in a weird place on the floor or in his car. And I think in her mind, he has access to all of the belongings of Liza, and she wants that, and she kind of sees it as him not being interested in it anymore, even though he's just stricken with grief and is kind of inconsolable.
Yeah, for sure, I agree, and I think the movie is sort of exploring like how do you approach your emotions in a state of complete grief, and just how difficult it is. And one heartbreaking scene I thought, and there's lots of them, but when Stephen Tobolowsky, he's like a character actor. He was like in Groundhog Day and stuff, but he plays the boss, who they're trying to like make this big presentation for, and then he comes in at the end like looking for this computer that he like shipped to him or whatever, and then he finds like the kids that are in there, and because there's kids that Philip Seymour Hoffman is like giving gas because he finds them like wandering the streets wanting gas, and then like it's that moment where he's like, I'm gonna call the cops if I see this again, and then he just fires him, and the look on Philip Seymour Hoffman's face there, I thought really well represented the feeling of just how much deeper you can fuck things up for yourself, even if you're at rock bottom, like um like that guy wanted to help him at the beginning. He was saying like, I'll do anything to get you through this, but there's only a certain line, and you can dig yourself like deeper and deeper and deeper if you don't approach things the right way. So I thought that was really sad.
Yeah, no, because everyone helping you like has a line at some point, and it might take like a really drastic thing like that.
You've
But
heard
yeah,
any of have you seen Leaving Las Vegas?
no, I haven't.
So there's a
But
scene, I don't think
that's
it's a
one that I
spoiler
need
because
to
it
see.
happens at the very beginning, but
It's Nicolas Cage, right?
Yeah, Nicolas Cage gets fired at the beginning because he's like a raging alcoholic, and it's just sort of a moment of him like breaking down and like begging for like forgiveness, but it's already done. So it reminded me of that a little bit.
Yeah, at the point that he comes over to get the computers, it's already too late. Um, and it's really sad too because Philip Seymour Hoffman's character Wilson is confused about why he's there. He thinks he's coming to pick up the like programming that he had done or was supposed to be doing, and it's like he seems confused about it, but it's like, no, you're sitting in the living room on the boxes. There's no hiding this or saying, hey, I'm working on it. You haven't even unpacked the
Well,
equipment.
I think it's also just having the kids in there huffing gas. I think
Oh
he
yeah,
knows what's going
no,
on.
that's definitely the end. There's no hiding that either.
Yeah. And I don't think it's a weird thing because Philip Seymour Hoffman's character like doesn't want like I think he just like feels bad for them. That's the only reason he's giving them gas because he feels bad for them because he can relate to them. Um, he's still like whenever he gives them gas, he's like kind of quickly like here, like just get out of here. And then he'll ask like, why can't you like just do it for yourself? And they're like, we can't get it anywhere, and because everybody knows us. And then at the end when they're in his house and they just kind of walk in, but like he's like you can't do it in here, and he's like trying to get them out of there, but like you know he's just caught at the worst possible time. So
Yeah, because his boss is already walking up, like when he's saying you can't do it in here.
yeah,
Um,
but I thought it was interesting that whole thing, even though maybe it's like kind of a little bit cliched, but I thought it was interesting him like dealing with like other addicts, like seeing him as an addict, and then seeing something, even though he seems extreme, seeing something even like a little bit more extreme in those characters.
mhm.
So yeah, I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
uh,
Well, did you have any more thoughts on it? Like, what would you rate the film?
I think I gave it a 4.5 every single time that I've watched it. Um, I don't know like why it's not quite a 5, and I think it might be just because it's not. I don't see it as something that I could just put on at any time.
Yeah.
I have to be in a specific mood for it, and I think that's why it's like docked half a star, but um other than that, I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
um I really I've thought a little bit about um just like the coincidence of her leaving a match in the note for him to burn the note after he reads it, because she knows probably that if he holds on to it, he'll just kind of ruminate.
Yeah.
So she wants him to destroy it and kind of like keep her in his heart, but not dwell on her and move on. And it just so happens that um, his choice of trying to cope is gasoline, and she leaves him a match that like ultimately burns down everything that they had together. um and in the way that we talked about water being kind of healing and cleansing, fire is also that way. um Not in the
Yeah.
same way. I feel like it's maybe more like water's more of a positive and fire is more, maybe not negative, but definitely more aggressive.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been thinking about that and trying to sort those ideas out. I don't know that I'm fully there yet, but
Well, it could be like water is life, fire is death,
mhm.
something like that. Um, yeah, but fire is definitely the more extreme version. But yeah, I thought the ending where he reads the letter was definitely one of the most emotional moments in the movie. But pretty much the payoff, not the payoff. I mean, that feels like a weird way to put it, but just the emotional climax of the movie. So I thought that was really well done.
Mhm. Um, I also looked up the 5 stages of grief because that wasn't something that I was thinking of specifically when I watched it, but so that would be denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And so at the beginning, I don't really see so much denial. Like, he's not denying that it happened, but he's denying himself the opportunity to read the letter because that kind of makes it more real, I think. Anger, I feel like he's kind of angry throughout the movie. And then bargaining, I could kind of see that being when there's the part where he's looking for fuel for the airplanes, and they're not open yet. And I can't think of what happens immediately before this, but he's upset and he goes to the hobby store, and they're not open yet. And he's like, please, I need gas for my plane. I need gas for my plane. And the guy's like, no, I can't like take your cash. I can't open the register yet. And he's like bargaining with him to get this gas. And finally he says, I do a demonstration for kids. And the guy just gives it to him for free and wants to know, oh, where's the demonstration? And Philip Seymour Hoffman's like, you can't come. You're not invited, or something like that.
That was a good moment.
And then,
funny moment.
Yeah, depression, he's depressed throughout the whole movie. And then acceptance, I think, is probably having to come, like it's forced upon him when he burns down the house and he just has to leave everything. And we see him walking down the center line at the end. But yeah, I just kind of was thinking about that after I watched it and wanted to kind of work through like where were all of those things in the film, because I hadn't really thought about that before, even though the whole movie's based around grief.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good interpretation of having all those elements in there. Yeah, I think it definitely works. But yeah, I don't think I had too many other thoughts on the movie. Like, I would give it a 5 for sure. It was like originally, I've seen it like a bunch of times. I think I originally gave it a 4, but like it's one of those things where it kind of like went up in my mind, and I think at a certain point I was just like, I've seen this so many times that I might as well just give it a 5. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of how I felt. But yeah, it's not like a movie that I necessarily could watch anytime, but there's like certain periods in my life where sometimes I feel like revisiting it. But
yeah, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, unless you had any other thoughts, I think that's about it.
Oh, I guess one thing, it's not like a huge thought, but I really hate the scene where they go to, I mean, it's a good scene, but I hate what occurs when they go to the zoo and they're sitting on the bench and she's like, like, I really like you. And it's like, no, this person is in crisis. Now's not the time to be hitting on him.
That felt odd, not just in like, that's one thing where maybe like a dog marked, but it didn't feel believable to me that would even happen.
Oh, I
like,
totally think there are people who, maybe not like something exactly like that, but I think there are people who kind of wait for an opportunity when someone else is having a hard time to kind of take advantage of them in some way. And maybe it's not necessarily romantically, but I was just, I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, what are you doing? Like, that's not okay at all.
Yeah, it's definitely like a weird, awkward moment. And it's like, it's even weirder because it's like, when you think about the time frame, I think at some point, and I don't think I realized this until like one of my later watches, but I think they say like she committed suicide like a week ago. Like, it hasn't been that long at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And at the beginning, they have some pretty good shots of like just really punching in that feeling of grief when they like show him going into the car and her hair is like on the scrunchie and stuff like that. So, yeah, I thought all that stuff was really well done. But Yeah, one of that might be, I don't know, your reading on that moment with, at the zoo is good. So I was gonna say that might be one of the weaker moments, but I can see what you're saying too, but yeah, there's not too many flaws in it overall.
No, I don't think so. Really well done on a small budget. I think it was mostly filmed in Louisiana, and I can't think of the other.
I think Alabama. I only know that
Okay.
because I think I saw it in the credits. Um, I don't know if he was from Mobile because it said Mobile, Alabama or something in the credits. But at one point he goes to Slidell, which is like near New Orleans,
Mhm.
um, because he wants to see the water. But there's no beaches. It's just like, a levee or whatever. Um,
Right.
but yeah, but I thought it had an interesting look to it. That was like nicely shot for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the bathroom. There's a scene where he's sitting on the floor in the bathroom and he like hallucinates that she's there
Yeah.
through the door. And I was thinking last night, like, I love that bathroom because it's all green tile all around
Mhm.
him. So I thought they did a good job for the indoor and outdoor locations, like choosing where to film.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that bathroom scene's really good and probably like one of the most emotional moments too. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I had to say. But thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for letting us do this movie. I think we both enjoy it and can relate to it in a lot of ways. So I was happy we finally got to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks for reviewing with me. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.